Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Kira's Corner, or welcome to if you're new. Glad to have you here. Today's video I meant to film when I was at home for Christmas break. The last couple of videos I've put out have all been at my parents' house in Ontario while I was home for Christmas. Now, I started filming this video and I got about 25 minutes. I think I had like 3 more things to talk about when I noticed my mic. My mic disconnected and died, and I had been rambling for about 15-20 minutes with no audio. So, we're doing it again. Today's video is going over my top and my bottom movies that I watched in the second half of the year. So, first of all, I mentioned this in my last movies thing, but I only talk about ones that weren't a rewatch. These were ones that I watched for the first time this year. Much like my book video I put out, I'm going to try and keep my honorable mentions shorter, just simply because I have other things I want to talk about. And then, no hate to these movies. No hate if you liked these movies. Just my opinion. Some of them I didn't love at all, and I really hated. And some were good, and I liked them, and maybe you didn't. The other thing I'll briefly mention is that my ratings go all over the place. Sometimes if I really love a movie, I'll rate it high. And sometimes if I think it's a terrible movie, I'll rate it low, as a normal person would. But also, I will rate terrible movies highly if I really enjoyed myself while watching it. Something that comes to mind, my movies of 2023, Chasing Liberty was on that list. That movie is not actually that great, but I had such a blast watching it. I don't think looking at my movies I'm talking about, no. My high rated movies that I'm going to talk about aren't really that, but you know, yeah. Alrighty, with all of that being said, let's get into my best and worst movies in the second half of 2024. Alrighty, we start with the honorable mentions, then we'll go from the best, worst, back and forth, so we can end on a high note. My first honorable mention is going to be Twisters. This was the sequel to Twister, which I've actually never seen. This kind of took over this summer, mainly because of Glen Powell, which I don't blame them. I don't blame them. But we follow Kate. She wants to stop tornadoes, can't, trauma. Years later, tries to stop tornadoes, meets Tyler, who is a tornado chaser or wrangler, if you will. It's very country. Loved it, had a good time. That soundtrack hits so hard. Twisters, highly recommend. My other honorable mention would be Challengers. This was the Zendaya movie that came out this summer. Also kind of took over a little bit. We followed Tashi. She's basically the next Serena Williams. And we have Patrick and Art, who bros for life. But are they? And you just follow the relationships between the three of them through tennis and time. Both of those movies I gave 4 stars. I will dip into my 4 stars for some of my other top movies, but those 4 stars are going to be my honorable mentions. The thing with Challengers was I came out of it not knowing what I watched, sort of, and also not knowing how I felt. So I've taken time. It's a great movie, definitely, but it's a weird one, for sure, for sure. Okay, with that out of the way, we move on to number 5 on the bad, and that is Wanted. This I gave 2 stars. This, we follow Wesley. He works a dead-end office job. His boss sucks. He takes meds for panic attacks. His girlfriend cheats on him all the time with one of his coworkers. And one day, this woman Fox comes up to him and tells him that his father was an assassin, that his father was actually recently murdered by a man called Cross. And so he's invited to join this organization that Fox works for in order to get revenge on his dad's killer. Mind you, he didn't know his dad. His dad left his family. We followed that. I went into that movie just wanting like an action thriller. That's kind of all I was hoping for. And I came out of it not happy. I gave it 2 stars. Wesley is James McAvoy, which I generally like. And then Fox is Angelina Jolie, which she can be hit and miss for me. But Morgan Freeman's in this movie. And I was just like not vibing at all with it. I don't remember much. I had to look up the plot because I could not remember. There is some like magic, I think, or like supernatural things going on in there, if I remember correctly. It just wasn't good. I wouldn't recommend. It was very boring. It wasn't what I wanted it to be, truly. I just wanted a good action thriller, and I didn't get that. So that's Wanted. Wouldn't recommend. But number 5 on the good. Another caveat I just realized. I have 2 movie series that I rated the same for the most part that I'm combining into one. This is one of those things, and then the next one, not the next one, the third good one is that too. But caveat over. Number 5 on the good is the Kingsman series. This includes the first one being the Secret Service, and then the second one, the Golden Circle. I gave both 4 stars. There is also a prequel that I watched. I didn't like that one as much. I gave that one 3.5. But we're only going to talk about these 2. So in the first one, Secret Service, we start with a professor being kidnapped by Richmond Valentine, who Samuel L. Jackson played. That was a fun surprise. I was not expecting. And there's an attempted rescue from Agent Lancelot, who works for Kingsman. But Lancelot gets killed during this process. And then we cut to meeting Eggsy. He's our main character, and he's invited by Agent Galahad to be his candidate to replace Lancelot in Kingsman. Now, what Kingsman is, it's a secret organization in England, and it's made up of 12 agents, basically, for, I think it's 12. However many knights King Arthur had in his round table, that's how many agents there are. And so each of their code names is one of those knights. And when someone dies, then all of the remaining agents will bring forth a candidate to participate in basically a trial of sorts to figure out who will replace that dead agent and become the next whatever. So Eggsy agrees, have rough upbringing, all this and that. But yeah, so the rest of the movie is just a mix of these trials to figure out who's going to become the next Lancelot, and then also figuring out Valentine's goal in saving the world, of course. Then the second one, Golden Circle, we have Eggsy, who's now a part of Kingsman, but I can't tell you how he became a member of Kingsman. You may think you know from what I've given you, but that's not it. And he finds out that there's an American counterpart called Statesman through how, I don't remember. But the big bad in the second one is Poppy Adams, who's played by Julianne Moore. Another shock. And she's the leader of the Golden Circle, which is, what I thought of it as I was watching it was, think drug cartel mixed with mafia. And that is the Golden Circle. Also fun. Okay. There you go. Synopsis, very brief. My thoughts. I went into this knowing that it was very much an R, hard R. And I was right. It's not a hard R for sexuality per se. It's more a hard R on violence and then profanity, big time. There's a lot of swearing, a lot of cursing, and lots of violence and gore. But I thought it was funny. I had such a fun time. It was so campy. So I really enjoyed it. I don't know. I had such low expectations going into this movie. This, again, was kind of in the same time as I watched Wanted. And so I wanted just an action thriller, spy, something fun. And this is exactly what I wanted it to be. So lots of fun with the Kingsman series. Both got 4 stars. And we move on. All right, number 4 on the bad. We have Spencer Confidential. This is a Netflix movie. And sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad. This one was not good. We follow Spencer. He's an ex-cop. We follow him as he's getting released from prison. And the same day that he's released, 2 cops get killed. And so he decides he needs to figure out what's going on. And he's getting the help from his new roommate, Hawk. Should preface, he went to jail for killing the police captain because the police captain was dirty. No one really believed him, though. And so you have that mix into it. I gave it 2 stars. I watched it because Mark Wahlberg. That's, I can't even come up with another good reason. I watched The Union in the second half of the year, and that was one of my 4 stars. I loved it. It was a Mark Wahlberg action movie. And I was like, Mark Wahlberg generally does okay with action. This one was not. I'm not a fan of this one. I just felt like nothing made sense. And it was dumb. There was this weird thing with his maybe ex-wife, ex-girlfriend. That felt totally random, didn't need to be in there. All Spencer really wants to do is become a truck driver, which I don't understand. But whatevs, not up to me. And yeah, just didn't enjoy, thought it was dumb. Yeah, that's Spencer Confidential. 2 stars. Would not be my first choice. All right, number 4 on the good, we have Inside Out 2. I gave this one 4.5 stars. So this one is a sequel to Inside Out, and now Riley is growing up, and she goes through puberty, which brings about these brand new emotions, and those being anxiety, embarrassment, envy, and ennui. I loved Ennui. He plays next to no role, but Ennui was so fun. And Joy and the OG gang get booted from HQ by anxiety because she's telling them that they aren't enough for Riley anymore. She needs more complicated emotions now. And so they get booted out of HQ, go way back into the brain, and they're trying to find a way to get back to HQ. This was beautiful. I loved it so much. I had missed it in theaters. I wanted to see it in theaters. And then one day I was just scrolling, trying to find something to watch to pass the time. And I remembered Inside Out 2. And it was like just on Disney Plus. And I was like, I need to watch that. And I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. I think that the creators of Inside Out do a lot of research into what like what emotions look like and how they can be expressed. And it was just gorgeous. I know many people who have dealt with anxiety. I don't deal with it nearly as much. Mine is much on the lower end of things. It doesn't take over. I've heard lots of people say that they really, really loved how anxiety was portrayed in this because it made a lot of sense. And even the end of the movie, I rarely cry in movies, okay? I rarely tear up. It just doesn't happen for me. I teared up at the end of this movie, which, ugh, it was so good. What's so funny about this is that the first Inside Out, it was one of those movies where I'm like, the first time I saw it, I'm like, yeah, once is enough. It was good, but I don't really know if I want to watch it again. And I kind of stand by that. Inside Out 2 is similar in that sense, but different at the same time. I don't know. It was great. Loved it. 4.5 stars for Inside Out 2. I was expecting it to be good. I didn't think it would be that good. So, good surprise. I had coffee. This is my hydration today. Healthy? Probably not. All right, number 3 on the bad. Number 3 on the bad is Descendants: The Rise of Red. This is the 4th movie in the Descendants franchise. Well, full length, because there is an animated short, which I've also watched. I didn't count that in this list, but there does exist that. So in Rise of Red, we have Uma being the new headmistress of Ordon Prep, and she decides to invite Princess Red from Wonderland to attend. Now, even though the Isle of the Lost has been opened, they are allowed to come to Ordon Prep. Wonderland apparently is like worse somehow, or they're crazy. I don't exactly know that because it's not explained. But Uma's like, we're inviting the school, we're opening it up to everybody, including Wonderland, but only invites Princess Red. So are we opening it up to everybody? Anywho, Red is the daughter of the Queen of Hearts, and she doesn't think her mom will let her go to Ordon, but is surprised when the Queen of Hearts says, absolutely, you're going to go to Ordon Prep. And they're like, oh, okay. So on like orientation day, kind of, where the parents can come too, they both go. They meet Chloe, who's the daughter of Cinderella. She's the other main character in the story. And everything seems decently okay until all of a sudden the Queen of Hearts basically attacks and captures everyone who attended this new student orientation. And Red earlier in the movie had gotten a time machine from Maddox Hatter, who I'm guessing is the son of the Mad Hatter. And she decides to use the time machine to go back in time to stop this from ever happening. But Chloe touches the machine too, and they end up going way further back than they meant to a time when Ordon Prep wasn't even a thing because Ordon wasn't a thing yet, and it was actually Merlin Academy. And this was before the Queen of Hearts became the Queen of Hearts. And so we follow them trying to stop the Queen of Hearts from becoming evil. There are issues. I gave this 1.5 stars. The music is good sometimes. One of the best songs is probably the one that they sing at the school. Oh, what's it called? Taste of Your Heart or something. That's in the song, but it's ruined by call us Gelatin. That was bad. And then also it's ruined because the VKs, Villain Kids, in case you didn't know, they come in and do a little verse and they like change the key and then it's all kind of weird and I don't like it. So that's almost perfect. And then even Red Song at the beginning is almost really good. And then there's a weird part with that too. So it's a mixed bag. And then the storyline itself is dumb. The way that they solve their problem is dumb and leaves plot holes. This is the greatest sin of this movie, okay? This movie was probably an hour and a half. Give us 15 more minutes of screen time, and this movie would probably be a lot higher than a 1.5 star. The big thing is that the reason that Bridget, which that's the Queen of Hearts before she became Queen of Hearts, turned into the Queen of Hearts was because something happened at Castle Coming, which is this big dance. I assumed it to be like Homecoming, and that was something happened there, and it changed everything. And they kept talking about Castle Coming the whole movie, but they never showed us Castle Coming. And so even though they may have solved the problem, I believe, and many others believe, that the problem actually wasn't solved at all because there's tons of holes everywhere. So if you had given us 15 more minutes of screen time, of runtime, and just like had Castle Coming, that's all we wanted. Literally all I wanted was to see Castle Coming, and that never happened. And that made me mad. Another big issue that specifically me and my sister have, and many others, if you look online, Chloe's wigs are terrible. They're constantly changing. They're changing length, they're changing color of blue, they're changing the style. Everything's wrong with those wigs. So overall, this movie could have been good had it been given 15 more minutes runtime, been able to act like in a better way to solve the problem, and not had stupid moments in songs, then I would probably have rated this higher. But because of those things, it gets 1.5. It makes me mad. So we're moving on. All right, number 3 on the good. This is the other one that came. It's a series, and that's the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but specifically Two Towers and Return of the King, which are the last two. Those are the two that I'm talking about here. I liked the first one a lot. I gave that one 4 stars, not 4.5. So we're only talking about the second two. These two, we have Frodo and Sam on a side quest with Gollum. They're bringing the ring to Mordor. Then we have a Merry and Pippin side quest with the Ents. That's fun. And then we have Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli on a side quest that brings them to Rohan. Eventually, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli meet up with the Merry and Pippin, which turns into more side quests with Rohan being one of the major ones, and then also Gandalf having a side quest with Pippin. Yes, Pippin. I almost forgot. And that's really all I'm going to go into. So this was the first time I'd seen Lord of the Rings this year. My best friend forced me. She was like writing a paper or something and wanted to watch the first one. And she's like, I know you haven't seen them, so you're going to watch them and you're going to love them. And I was like, fine. But I was really contrarian about it for a while. And then fell in love with them. They're great. And loved Two Towers and Return of the King especially. They're just so good. And I don't know what else to say. Like, it's common knowledge that these movies are like masterpieces. And I understand now. And I love them. It brought up lots and lots of reels for me that I now send to my besties because they understand what I'm talking about. But yes, hated Gollum so much. Don't love Frodo. Sam is my favorite. Merry and Pippin are dumb, but that's pretty common knowledge. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, also my favorite. They are the best trio ever. Love Gandalf. Loved. Okay. Loved is a strong word. But the tension between Eowyn and Aragorn got me on the edge of my seat. And then hate Denethor. If you know, you know. So, that's Lord of the Rings. I'm not going to talk about it much more than that because I feel like most people understand how good they are. I will say, I watched the normal editions for the first and second one, but then Return of the King we could only find extended edition, so that's the only one I've seen the extended edition for. But I've seen clips and things from other extended editions. I'm like, wow, cinematic masterpieces. Okay, now we're done talking about Lord of the Rings, and we're going to move on back to the bad. Number 2 on the bad, we have The Flash. This I gave 1.5 stars. Here we go. Let's talk about this movie that was garbage. So we follow Barry. He's the Flash, believe it or not. And he's dealing with his father's arrest from a long time ago for the death of his mother. But he believes that his dad didn't kill his mom, except there's no evidence that they can use to prove that he didn't. And so he's feeling overwhelmed with emotions one day, and he accidentally travels back in time to this day where he was saving babies from a hospital blowing up. And that's when he realizes he can travel back in time, and this is when he decides he's going to go back in time to stop his mother's death. He does this, and then he's running back to the present, except he gets pushed out or something, and not quite his present. It would still be his past, but a brand new past because his mom's around. And realizes a lot of stuff has changed simply because of his mom, like, not dying. And this stuff is crazy. And he's trying to save the day. And that's really about it that I really care about. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be the Flashpoint Paradox from the comics. And there have been other iterations of this in media, in movie form, movie and TV form, because the show The Flash I think they did Flashpoint with Arrow and what would it be, Legends of Tomorrow maybe? I think those would have been the other 2 Arrowverse shows at the time. Well, maybe Supergirl. But I don't know how well that one was received. And then, or maybe they just did Flashpoint for the heck of it. I can't remember. I did watch almost all of Flash. Did I finish it? I didn't finish it. I got bored. I mean, the animated DC movies are much more loved than the DCU, sort of. And they did a Flashpoint movie, which I think has been highly regarded. I need to watch them. I want to watch them. And so this was trash. This was garbage. Add to the fact that there's a lot of bad things about Ezra Miller. Great. So yeah, this was terrible. The CGI looked bad. The storyline didn't like. Yup. I will say it ended like wild. Was not expecting that at all. So yeah, not good. Not good. I hope James Gunn can do the DCU good. I mean, he did so good with the Guardians movies and Marvel, so I'm hoping DC can actually make some good movies. We shall see. I will say Superman looks good. So I have high hopes. But anyways, Flash was trash. Don't watch. All right, number 2 on the good. We have Where the Crawdads Sing. I gave it 4.5 stars. This one, I talked about reading the book in the first half of the year and loving it. I watched the movie, also loved it. So I won't talk too much about it, just because I've talked about it before. We follow Kaya. She lives in the marsh in North Carolina in the 50s. Her mom leaves, then her siblings leave one by one, and eventually her father leaves for good. And so we follow her growing up in the marsh and just learning about the relationship she has with the people in her town. Simultaneously, we have the trial of Kaya for a murder in the 60s. And so it's going back and forth to kind of show the history that Kaya had with the victim and how all of this would have been motive for Kaya. I loved it. Again, they made some changes, which I was pretty okay with. I thought it was a pretty good adaptation. I thought it stayed true to the book for the most part. The ages felt better for me. I mentioned this in my book thing, that I was unsure about some ages between her and her final love interest. Like, there might have been a bit of an age gap that I wasn't a fan of. And they made them a lot closer in age, I think. At least it felt a lot closer in age. But yeah, I thought it was great still. I loved it. Even though I knew what was happening, I still had a fun time with it. So, Where the Crawdads Sing, 4.5 stars. Had a fun time. All right, last one on the bad. Can't wait to talk about this. Oh, this is so good. All right, my worst movie that I watched in the second half of 2024 was Sidelined to the QB and Me. Okay, so this is one where it's terrible. Terrible movie. I had such a fun time with it, but I could not get myself to rate it highly because it was just so bad, even though I had such a fun time. Cackling constantly during this movie. So this is a Wattpad book adaptation. I love a fanfic movie. They're so great. We follow Dallas. She's a dancer, and she's now a senior at her brand new school, where her brother is the new football coach. We have Drayton. That's a dumb name, as most fanfic movies do. Dumb name alert. Drayton. He is the star QB. He's the best, he's the most popular guy in school. Blah blah blah. Yada yada yada. All this in me. Dallas wants to go to Cal Arts for dance because that's where her mom went. And Drayton is feeling pressured by his dad to go to Waco because he's a legacy there. Dallas doesn't like Drayton. Drayton flirts with Dallas plenty because Drayton will flirt with anything, pretty much. And you can guess what happened from there since it's a fanfic movie. Here's why I really watched this movie. Okay, it's Noah Beck's first movie, and I wanted to see how terrible his acting was because I remember watching He's All That with Addison Rae, and that was her first movie. And like, I need to see how terrible Addison Rae is at acting, and it was garbage. She was terrible at it. Noah is also bad at acting. Not even gonna lie, not good at acting. The fact though that there were like some legit actors in this, like James Van Der Beek was in this, aka he's Dawson from Dawson's Creek, and that's wild that he's in this movie. This terrible, terrible movie. And then I keep seeing the guy who played Fangs in Riverdale in every single Wattpad fanfic movie. What are you doing, bro? Oh man, it's so good. Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. They have these dumb nicknames for each other. He calls her Cheer. She calls him Quarterback. That's what they do. It's such a bad movie, and I was laughing and cringing the whole time, and so I loved it. You know, it's going to be one of those movies where it's terrible, but I'll still recommend it to people. I have a couple of those where I'm like, it's terrible. Don't even get your hopes up for anything. It's bad. But you're going to love your time because you'll be laughing and cringing the whole time. But yes, that would be the worst movie I watched in the second half of 2024. Sidelined, QB and Me, 1 star. And now for the finale of the movies. The best movie I watched in the second half of the year was Wicked Part 1. I loved this movie. I saw it twice in theaters. I saw it once with my best friend. We saw it like on the Thursday that it came out. And then I saw it with my mom and my sister when I went home for Christmas. So this is the origin story of The Wicked Witch of the West. It is based off of the Broadway musical. And so we follow Elphaba. She attends Shiz where she meets Glinda, and they don't like each other at first, but they go to be friends. So this is part 1. Part 2 comes out this year, I guess it's 2025. And so this first part is just act 1 of the Broadway musical. It was so good. I was really I was confused as to why they were splitting up the Broadway show into 2 movies. And then as I was watching the movie, I was like, wow, this would be like, they really got a lot of stuff in. And it was so good. Everyone's acting was great. Cynthia Erivo knocked it out of the park. Ariana Grande knocked it out of the park. I was really worried with that casting because I was like, am I just going to see Ari or am I going to see Glinda? And I saw Glinda, not Ari. So, yeah, beautiful. Loved it. They are both magnificent singers, and they both sound beautiful together. It was just gorgeous, and I loved it. Had such a fun time. I literally cannot wait for the second part. The songs in the Act 2, I'm waiting so patiently because I know those songs are going to hit so hard. They're going to be so beautiful. I can't. Oh, it's so good. I can't wait. But that's it. That's last one. Wicked Part 1 got 4.5 stars from me. That's it. That's my best and worst movies of the second half of 2024. Wow. Talked real quick. I am not mad about that because I'm hoping that means that I can get this video nice and short. I am unsure of what I want to do for this next year when it comes to movies and books. I liked these 6-month catch-ups, but at the same time, I don't know what I'm gonna do because there were tons of books and movies that I didn't get to talk about that I really wanted to. So we'll see. I haven't quite decided anything yet, but yeah. Let me know your thoughts down below, what your thoughts are on the movies I watched and any of the movies you guys watch that you love. I always take recs for new movies and books to read. Okay? I love a good recommendation, and we can try to get through some. Like the video if you did, like it if you didn't. It doesn't hurt you, just helps me. Feel free to subscribe if you want. You can turn on the bell. I don't have a consistent upload schedule. I say this every video. I'm a student. I work. I don't have time. But I think what I want to do, I think I want to do a video a month probably is going to be my goal. I've already done 2 this month as of filming. I'm filming in January. I've already put out 2 videos. So I'll probably wait a bit. I do have a video that I'm working on editing right now, and then I'll have this one. So who knows? We'll see. Maybe it'll be 2 videos a month, but I'm setting the goal for 1 video a month. I think that is relatively attainable. So we shall see. But yeah, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you next time in Kiara's Corner.